the skipper.
Heppel measures the kick, finds Redmond. A kick and a half from home. Wiedemann in the square, ball on its way. Chance here, who gets there first? Stringer on the left. Durham gets in the front spot, top of the square. He should have the last kick of the night. Hasn't seen a moment like this in his life. Picked up in the mid-season draft 2 years ago. Can he handle the moment? He puts it through the middle, and the Bombers find some dream to
Man Curvis. Perfect bounce. He'll try and smash it forward, Draper. It could be enough. Durham's been enormous. He's kicked the winner on Dreamtime. It's the Bombers who prevail in one of the great games of season 2023. A 1-point win.
How bloody good is footy? The Dons win 10-11-71 against the Tigers, 10-10-70, ending a 13-game losing streak dating all the way back to round 11, 2014. How bloody good. Good evening, Nathan. How are you today?
We are the champions, my friend. And Richmond are the losers again.
I don't think we can really say
13 games. We are the champions. I could go on, Sam.
You can, and you would if I let you. How nice. 4 losses in a row, and we come back to a win in possibly the most dramatic circumstances possible, although we'll leave some more drama to North at this point. But 13 games losing streak against the Tigers is tied with our longest losing streak against any single club ever, which incidentally is Carlton from 1968 to 1974. Just unbelievable scenes. Anyone that was there, it was as party an atmosphere as I've experienced for 15 years of going to the football regularly. Just brilliant.
It finally wasn't us. I felt like we've had a few of those. Collingwood last year and other ones. So it was nice that we actually were the team that kicked the goal with 7 seconds to go and finally got to celebrate that way. I was so happy.
One point, and now I've got a stat for you that this is the one I hid from you pre-pod.
Okay. Love it.
And it sounds good. We've now had 5 games of football where we've beaten Richmond by a single point. 1942, 1946, and 1962. What happened in those 3 seasons?
We won premierships.
We'll ignore the fact it happened in 2002 for the purposes of the stat, but premiership years. So, I mean,
we're on our way.
Flag Dons confirmed right there.
Mm-hmm.
Part of that was courtesy of Don the Stat on Twitter. Thank you very much.
Oh, yeah, 20 is pretty good.
I added some more to it, but they were the originators. We've got a lot tonight, obviously, to cover.
I don't know where to start, Sam. I mean, I went to bed later that night in a little tucked up, happy little Essendon world.
Homer in his little Dooner all
just going, we won by a point. We won by a point. And I didn't even text any of my Richmond friends or people. I just was like, I don't have to. It's just the joy. It'll just be burning their little hearts, their little burn.
I'm still speechless. I had a 3-hour drive home, so I got home at about 2:45, and I still was very, very happy. I listened to it a couple of times on the way home. Just that end little bit.
Did you get up and watch the replay
Sunday morning? First thing. Wins like that don't come around too often.
In that replay, I noticed that what I didn't notice live was Redmond when Baldwin, when there's that contest on the ring right in front of the interchange.
Yep.
Baldwin sprints off. Played a great game too. And Redmond sprinted on and went out to that wing where we next see him running. And I thought, that was an important little...
It was work rate.
Well, it was an important little change by us like that. And, you wouldn't want to go over the count of how many interchanges you make.
No.
Imagine being that club.
Oh, God. Just when you think it can't get any worse. We'll stick with our mobs.
And they count, Sam. I mean, doesn't it? Like, it's a number. You can't go over the number. It's pretty straightforward. Anyway, not about them.
Terrible club. I'll read off some stats and then we'll get into the gritty nitty-gritties. That's what you call it. Wiedemann, Menzies, Durham, 2 goals. 2 of the most critical goals you'll ever see from Sammy Durham.
Sam Durham going forward in that last quarter was a great move.
Yep. Stringer, Snelling, Langford, and Davey Jr. 1. Merritt, 39 touches. Ridley, 32. Caldwell, 31. Out of interest, Merritt, 39 touches, 7 tackles, which was equal rank 1 on the ground, 679 metres gained, which was rank 1.
And 158 fantasy points.
And lots of fantasy points.
Ridley, just for those people that play.
Ridley, 32 touches, 14 marks. That's a massive game. Career high disposals for Ridley, Caldwell, Hobbs, Baldwin, and to go with the fact we had 9 players with less than 50 games experience. Sammy Durham, the hero, one of them.
Yeah.
No Wright, Shield, Jones, Guelphy, Setterfield, Laverde, Kelly. No worries.
Do they get back in? They obviously can't come back in. Winning team, change a winning team.
We're gonna have to talk about that later on. I've got some other stats, but we'll sort of get to that as we get to that. Let's talk about some moments in the game. Do you want to start? Because I feel like I've waffled.
Yeah, no. Well, I'll do one of my favourite moments.
Please.
It was my boy, Jakey Stringer.
Your boy, yes.
It was a beautiful bit of ruck work from Draper down. It was a bit of a contest. Then an awesome handball to Merritt, who a little chipping, and he's so good at those, 20-metre passes. He just, and then what's his name, McIntosh? No, Mackenzie.
No, McIntosh.
Richmond.
Right, the first time came to McIntosh.
Decided I won't stand on Stringer. I'll let him go.
And turned his back and ran away.
Yeah. He's not very effective from, running inside from 60. He's not very good at that.
Yeah.
And Jakey put it through. And that's about the moment I thought, geez, we're
in this.
We're in this. There's a bit of momentum now. And then a little bit after that was Tim Woody's point, which I was nearly jumping out for that one because I thought it was
it would have been fitting, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
And he's kicked a goal like that against North Melbourne a few years ago, running into the pocket and snapping.
Yep, and that's what I was thinking at the time.
Same. That's what popped through my head. And we all sat there and joked about handy point.
Yeah.
Little did we know.
It was the match-winning point.
That was.
He's kicked the match-winning point.
Let's talk about some... We'll sort of go through the game. I would be honestly slating McIntosh if I'm a Richmond supporter. That was the most... low IQ, dumb piece of football. And I know Richmond are obviously over the last 6 years, incredible, whatever, but geez, you'd think they're more well-drilled.
Well, there was a stat came up after maybe it was on one of the Fox shows I was watching yesterday because, you're just trying to absorb so much.
All football when you win,
yeah. And they said that, I think the number was something like Richmond have had 7 games where they've been resolved by a kick.
Yes, and
5 of them they've lost and 2 of them they've drawn.
Yep.
I'm like,
very poor record. And you compare that to Collingwood, who obviously win them religiously.
That's a burn, isn't it? Like that's and then you see a moment like Mackenzie there and McIntosh. Yeah, get his name right. And you think, well, geez, that's and to be honest, there was a moment with Redmond too in that last about 7 minutes ago when I thought he should have just read it through for a point. And I thought we'd had our moment there too when they kicked a goal from that.
Yeah.
So,
Sorry, I was listening. Promise you. I want to talk about BZT. He's had a rough month of football.
We've had some good opposition.
He's had very good opposition, but on a personal level, I'm sure that would be no consolation. Kept Jack Rewalt goalless. First time Rewalt's been goalless against Essendon since 2016, which is a strange year given we had no one that year for him to be goalless. But anyway, a better matchup for him. I'll be honest, it's not Tom Hawkins.
Well, that's right. He's a mobile tool, not a...
But I thought Jack played a really smart game. There was a couple of times where he just protected the space and kept Zach Thatcher out of the ball, out of the drop zone, tapped it, moved it, whatever. I think he had one shot at goal, running snap and missed. But in the air, BZT won everything. Or was chopped out. So really good performance. And Rewalt is, again, the kind of guy that likes kicking goals against Essendon. Normally when there's 2 minutes left and they're up by 10 goals, but that's how junk time operates. Good game from BZT. Deserved good game from BZT. He's, like I said, rough month.
again, we've talked about him a lot, and the change in him since early to mid last year to now is phenomenal. We watched him come in a few times years before he'd have good form in VFL, and he'd come play a couple of senior games. We go, oh, he looks like he's a mile off it. He's getting pushed around. He looks very nervous. But I guess that's and I'd probably say we're seeing it a bit with Wiedemann too. Is that you're getting that comfort now? I'm playing every week. The coach is clearly you're playing every week, mate. You don't have to worry. Yes. One bad game, you're not back to the VFL. And I think that would be the same with Wiedemann too, because we're seeing some really good form from him. Yeah. Like that first half, he was as good a player on the ground.
And not
7 shots of goal, didn't he?
He had 5 shots.
5. Sorry, 5.
2 goals, 3. Kicked the first 2 goals of the night.
And leading contested marker, and sort of, I think, took 6 or 7 contested marks. So he, great game. But I think that they would have said to him at the start of the game, mate, at the start of the year, you play every week. Like, you're in this team.
Yes, and
that'd be a big difference compared to Melbourne, where he was like, well, if I play a bad game, I'm back out to the VFL and Brown or someone else comes in.
And he's quite safe in the knowledge too that when Peter Wright comes back, he's still safe.
Yeah, he's not about that. It's about both of them playing together, which is what we want to see next. Yeah.
But BZT's the same, as you say. I mean, there is no depth for him, but I think he would have taken a lot from that Hawkins game.
Yep.
And I reckon possibly an element from Brad Scott on that to leave him on him.
Yeah.
And to not rush to take him off, because he would have learned. And he's been better since that game. He got goals kicked on him, sure, but he's been a lot better. And
it's knowing that the coaches accept a bad game because you're in the like you're a good player. They see you. You have bad games. Good players have bad games.
Yeah, absolutely. I also think it helps to have Baldwin down there.
Oh,
for him,
we've got to talk about
Ridley as well.
Baldwin's a one grabber. He's a real solid hand,
clean mark, and lovely kick.
That kick. We talked about it in the second quarter that hit Wiedemann on a lead.
Yes, and the entire crowd groaned because we thought it was going to go straight to a Richmond player. Cleared his fingernails by an inch, and we took a diving mark.
Would Kelly take that kick on?
No.
And I love Laverde. Would Laverde could Laverde?
No. There's a good conversation we'll have at the end around next week of what happens there, because there's some headaches and good headaches.
Interesting headaches. Fascinating.
Well, let's talk about the back six, because once again, I mean, high number of inside 50s for Richmond.
Yep.
I'll actually get the stat if you'll divulge.
No. You do your thing.
We are going week on week. We're conceding a lot of inside 50s, which I guess.
Well, last week it was horrible.
60, which is above average for the AFL.
Yep.
So, they were the away team. Yep, cool. Make sure I'm reading the right number. But they've stood up again, as I say. Ridley with 14 marks is incredible. Redmond had a fair bit of footy. Hardwick, which we'll get to the Hardwick news. There's a lot of comments in the chat at the moment around Hardwick. We'll talk about that a bit later on. Hardwick said in his press conference that we just turned the ball over, but there's 2 elements to that. Yes, they did turn the ball over, but our guys were in the right position, took the marks. And so often we drop those marks and concede, and the ball lives in our D50, but we actually took the marks.
Yeah.
Ridley, Baldwin, all the same. I don't know if BZT had too many marks himself, but
But he was doing a lot of punching, I think that's...
Yes, yeah, of course.
And because of that's the nature more of his contests about the guys he's on. He's not like going to be just...
I lied. He took 9 marks.
But also like he's not going to be just stepping next to Rewalt and out marking him. He's going to be trying to punch.
No, and that's not his goal.
Yeah, whereas Ridley and probably less Redmond, but Ridley definitely, he's meant to slide across and take the marks. And that's when we have really tall options like Reed and possibly Cox, that'll be part of their expectation, is that they'll be sliding over the top, same as Harris does for Brisbane. He can be a third man up and just clunk.
Or Darcy Moore, who temporarily
Moore
broke the record for intercept marks, and then the AFL took it off him.
What?
So he took 11 intercept marks, which broke the record by 1, and then the AFL reviewed the footage, and one of those marks came a fraction of a second after the siren, so they took it off him. So now he's got the equal record.
So hang on, does that change his fantasy scores, which has already been done?
I imagine it would. I don't know how that works. Fantasy's not my...
Yeah, that's not your field.
Nicole, Nathan. But in terms of numbers, like Ridley 32 touches, McGrath 29 touches, Redmond 27. That's a lot of ball. That's a lot of football in your defensive six. Starting defensive six too. They're not sort of the
And they're
rotation.
the better users. Like, I think that what in the 2 weeks we've seen, I mean, McGrath's a pretty good user. I mean, he had that shocking kick across goal.
They all do. That's okay.
Yep,
That was a handball too, not a kick.
Was it? Wasn't it a kick?
The one that they kicked a goal from.
Well, there was a kick. Anyway, doesn't matter. Everyone knows what we're talking about. Someone can correct it. Whoever's right, it'll be me. And Baldwin, I think, is another part of that. Whereas I have concerns about one of Kelly's things, and we had concerns about Hind last week and his ball use. And I think with Hind's ball use is that he gets a lot more uncontested kicks and marks, so therefore his stats look good. But when I think he's under pressure, he butchered it 1 or 2. Actually, I remember
he turned the ball over in the fourth quarter, but you can't
chased hard then to try and get it back.
You can't dwell on one single kick.
No, you can't. But it's when it becomes a consistent thing.
If it is a theme, then yes. And I think go on.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, like we saw from Heppel early in the year, we were seeing a lot of it. We were really frustrated. He had 2 or 3 weeks in a row where he was just turn the ball over.
Since then, he's like 80-90% efficiency.
Since then, he's obviously said, I'm not going for those kicks, or he's pulled his head in and knows what he's doing. Well, anyway, I don't know what it is. But...
That's half of it. Don't take the kicks you can't make.
Yep.
And there'll be guys in that, not just the back six in the midfield, who know the kicks they are capable of. Merritt's
a great
beautiful
example. He can take anything
50.
on.
He's a beautiful kick inside 50. Ridley's a beautiful field kick.
Yep.
McGrath, as you say, can be hit and miss, but generally is pretty good.
Yep.
Hind, his value is the breakaway pace, more
That's
so
right.
Disposal.
I thought Caldwell hit a few good ones too.
Calder's that kick out of the middle to Wiedemann. I think we touched on that earlier. But again, he had a shocking kick out of defensive 50 that they got a goal from.
Yep.
But you can't dwell on it because he's capable of that. And I think that was as much a decision-making error than the kick itself. So, yeah. Awesome game by the back six. Pidge played, Dusty kicked 2 goals, but it's Dusty.
Man,
and they were moment type goals. They weren't from marks. They weren't from mistakes from us. It was just he picked up the ball. He snapped one from a long way out, and I don't really remember the other one, to be honest.
Yep.
But Pidge, 1-on-1, Pidge did not get beaten.
Nope.
Heppel in the first quarter helped him out. There was a 1-on-1 contest in Richmond's forward line that Hepp got across and made the spoil and didn't give away a free kick, which is a lot when it's Dusty because he gets a free kick if you breathe on him, usually. As a group, Shai Bolton seemed to be everywhere, but didn't really affect the scoreboard, apart from a lovely dribble kick. Which
Prestia was very quiet
Prestia was very quiet. Yeah,
from Prestia's standards.
Anything else to add for the defence? I think
no, I just want to mention Baldwin was the one I thought. I agree with all the other ones. Like not to give too much away, but 2 of my 3 best on grounds were defenders.
Yes,
because
I think it's not a ruckman because you do love your ruckman.
I do love my ruckman. Well, I thought it was a game where I thought the defenders were really, really important. Not to say forwards and midfields weren't, but anyway.
Okay, it sounded like more. I think you were spot on with your one grabber comment with Baldwin. He's clean.
He's very clean with it.
And he does look like a defender, not a forward, I got to say.
Yeah, he's body work. He reminds me a little bit of not just a tiny bit of Hurley. Like just his body on body.
But just his appearance, he looks like a fullback out of the 90s.
Yeah, he looks like an old school footy player. Like he's not tall and lean. He looks almost a bit thick set. Like he's not. He just goes about it and does it really well.
Yeah.
Reminds me a bit of like a Franger.
Interesting.
Well, we loved Franger. I liked Franger. He just couldn't get his body right and maybe his mind right to play enough footy.
Playing in the right position, which he still.
I always felt he was a defender. I hated him up forward.
He played some beautiful games. Anyway, as a VFL defender.
We won't go into that, people.
Awesome. No, we won't. He's gone. All right. I wanted to talk about the back six specifically because they were brilliant, but when I talk about moments, there's not a lot of back six moments that are going to come up. So, well, yeah, but yes, it's okay. We'll get to that.
Okay.
Now, I want to talk about our forwards, even though I just said I wasn't going to talk about groups again. But anyway,
I love it, Sam.
We're trying so hard to be structured, and it just goes out the window, especially when I don't know what to talk about because we won and it was freaking phenomenal.
We're still surprised. We're still trying to... Now, why did we win?
Why did we win? Because we kicked one more point than them.
That was Tip and Woody's point. There you
Wallace
go.
point. There you go.
All
Wallace,
right,
best
people.
on.
Thanks for the podcast. We'll be back next week.
3 votes. A. McDonald, Tip and Woody. I feel like our smalls, although not a lot of touches, the whole forward six, actually, not just the smalls.
Yep.
Were brilliant. And there's moments and then there's stats to back that up. So Davey Jr. made, in the first quarter, made a contest against Nankervis. Worked that one out. That led to Snelling's goal. He didn't do much, but he was there.
Well,
I caused the error from.
I think he did do some. I did think he did enough, but yeah.
But it wasn't like a solid contact.
No, yep.
He just did enough to get the ball to ground, and Snell kicked a goal, which I love. Sorry, that was Davey Jr. in the first quarter. My apologies.
Yeah, that's what you said.
No, far out. That was Menzie. Menzie first quarter made the contest. Davey Jr. again against Nankervis in the fourth quarter. I was thinking of, sorry. That led to the Menzie goal.
Yes. Yeah, when he kicked it long and then we ran out of
the second last goal we kicked. Yes, that was from Davey Jr. again competing against Nank that led to a goal. We were critical last week that we got outmarked too easily too often, and it was still a little bit of an issue, of course, Saturday night. But when you've got, Davey Jr. is a bit taller than a small forward, but he's still lean and thin and tiny, so is Menzie. When they're making aerial contests against the opposition ruckman, no less, you're in a good spot.
Well, that's right. They're just contesting. They're just trying to get the ball. So if they mark it, we don't have an effect. Correct. If they compete and somehow get the ball to come to the ground, that's when they're dangerous. Yep. And I think to your point, though, what you're making is that so our top tacklers in the game was Merritt at 7. Great game. Next was Stringer with 6. McDonald, Tip and Woody was 6. Hobbs, and then Menzies, and then Alan Davey was in there too. So like 4 of those forwards.
Well, I've got a stat for that.
Yep, go. Sorry.
So no, that's okay. That's a good introduction. Forward group tackles: Waller and Stringer 6, Menzie 4, Davey Jr. 3, and then tied into that the forward group scoring involvements, which includes goals as well as chains.
Yep.
Menzie 8, Wiedemann 7, Waller, Stringer 6, Langers and Perkins 5.
Yep.
That's a high output, particularly the tackles, as you say. And
well, it's what we want to see from them is that if they're not, when the ball hits the ground, they've got to be hunting, they've got to be pressuring, they've got to be making teams nervous about.
Yes. They don't actually have to be competing in the air, but the fact they was critical.
Well, competing in the air is important. Somebody has to compete in the air, and if it's only them, they have to go.
Well, they have to go, absolutely.
But if they're not, if somebody else is gone, then they have. When the ball hits the ground, that's where their bread and butter is.
So in terms of AFL average for tackles inside 50, this is this season only. The AFL average is 10.6. Our average is 10, and we had 16.
We're around the mark. Yeah,
we had 16.
What?
We had 16 tackles inside 50.
So is that 60%?
It's another 60%, yes.
Yeah.
Good math.
Look at us doing maths live.
Yeah, quite simple maths, and it still confused us.
Thank you, Mrs. Horseman.
If you're listening. In 2023...
Pretty sure she'd be dead, actually, to be honest. And in a polite way, she was very old at school, not because she was evil.
Okay, all right. Moving on. In 2023, we averaged 4 players with at least 1 tackle inside 50, and we had 7. Courtesy of Twitter Sphere. Thank you. And before Saturday night, we'd had 3 games since the start of 2021 where we had 16 plus tackles inside 50. Anzac Day 2021, which we won by 4 goals. Our game against Adelaide in 2021, which we won by 10 goals. And our upset win against Sydney at the G late last year, which we won by 9 points.
So what's our take-home message?
Pressure, forward half pressure, which is still an element of defence, wins you games.
Yep. Well, I'd stretch it further. So if you can mark the ball, which we did a lot in our defensive 6,
yes, correct. Yep.
Then you can rebound and you can get it in there. If you get it back in there, then you hold it in there. It makes it a bit easier for the defenders. They don't have to defend all day, like what's happening in our last few games. They're defending and defending and defending, and then you wear the other teams down.
Yeah.
I mean that sounds stupid because it feels like we're saying obvious things, but it's what you have to do to win games of football. And that's what we're trying to do.
Good summation.
Sorry.
It is wildly simple, isn't it, though? Like, You win the ball back in your
is.
defensive half, and you keep the ball in your forward half.
Yeah, it is. It is wildly simple.
But
yeah, and then you win it in the clearance. Like when the ball,
shit.
when it's in in
Yes.
no man's land in a contest, then you try and win that and go forward.
You win
Like
ball.
it seems
the simple shit is where we've fallen down for a long
100%.
time. And against Brisbane last week, we turned the ball over so much.
Yep.
And we certainly weren't faultless Saturday night.
let's bring up the Redmond incident.
The rush or no rush.
Yeah. Well, the non-rush. Like for me, that's the brain fart that we can't seem to get rid of. Like, so Redmond was running towards goal. He was in the front position. The ball was bouncing in front of him. He just had to go tunk with his two hands and hit both of them over the boundary line, or grab it and then run over the point, line. Like that's all he had to do. But for some reason, he tried to keep it in play, and I thought he was probably worried. I don't want to look like it's deliberate, but he was inside the 9. And he was definitely under pressure. He had a guy right on his backer.
Yeah, it could have been clear behind, but I don't think
the umpires wouldn't have
gone.
No. And like as a supporter, I would have been pissed off at the umpires because I thought, no, he's done the right thing by carrying it over the line. That would have been.
And we're long past that being paid deliberate.
Oh, it doesn't happen.
Past.
Anyway, he just brain farted, stopped the ball. The Richmond guy, I can't remember who it was, turned around, got the little soccer, and then he had a bit of a wrestle because the proper guy said to him, "Dickhead."
I reckon Redmond was pretty pissed off at himself.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I thought, see, and there was another little moment too. Zerk Thatcher, love him, but he double grabber that he should have probably taken, and then the ball spilled out, and they got it. I think that's when they had the shot.
Oh yeah, there were a couple of drop marks.
Little moments. We've just got to be cleaner at that point. Like he had to mark that.
Yeah, and in the fourth quarter, I think Redmond dropped one, possibly Redmond.
Heppel
definitely dropped one. Heppel definitely dropped one.
Yep.
And again, not being critical, we won, and we'll take that to the grave, but.
They're the
moments that can cost you games of football. And in that game, they very much could have, obviously, when you win by the slenderest of possible margins. So,
and I hate to break into your territory here, Sam, but that makes a great segue.
Ooh.
See what I've done there? Into some of the negatives that are from the game. Because I think, to be honest, to take that win away, great. But we have to also, how do we get better?
All right, well, You tell me.
You weren't ready for negatives, were you?
I wasn't, but I would like to end on the ultra positives because we haven't got to the obvious parts of the game yet. But this is good because then we can end on the.
Let's do a couple of negatives. And they were the.
Well, what we just talked about were mine. The sloppy. There's some sloppy, sort of factors creeping in late in the game. There are a couple of decision-making issues, the hind kick in the fourth quarter, the Redmond thing. I think Redmond was a decision-making issue around, can I rush it? Am I allowed to rush it? Oh, shit, he's kicked a goal. Other than that, like, I got frustrated a lot that, and I don't know if this is within our control or not, a Richmond player would spoil the ball and it would go like 10 metres straight to Shea Bolton. And Shea Bolton was the player every single time. Whether his positional awareness is just outstanding,
or he has a magnet,
or sheer dumb luck,
magnet on him.
I don't know. But Jesus Christ, it drove me insane. But I don't know if that's an us thing or if that was just on another day they would have gone straight to us. Like I don't know how that works. And also the bounce of the ball pissed me off. And it did ultimately help us. The Menzies goal came from a very dodgy bounce.
Yeah, that one was a very bad bounce
That's
for Richmond.
the perils of the football in the shape that it is. I know, I get it. But Jesus Christ, we got some dodgy bounces. When we should have had clean ball. It went the other way.
Well, the one I wanted to mention was Andrew Phillips.
Oh, Flipper, yeah.
Like, he's been good for us in some games, but the last 2 weeks have just... They're concerning me because this week had one possession,
which came
that was in 3/4 of footy, like 65%. I think game time. He touched it hit his handle. Well, not in the hit out.
To his credit, it was effective.
100% effective.
100%. Two score involvements, one mark, which was what the disposal came from. Obviously, one tackle, and 8 hit outs.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, Flipper. That's
sorry.
It's not. And we'll get to this a bit later on, but when you've got bloody Brian smashing down the door at this point.
Well, we'll talk about that's why I wanted to lead to his VFL numbers. But I mean, so he was up against a lot of the times. So he was up against Nankervis sometimes, of course, but the other times he was up against I'm going to say 10 gamer in Samson Ryan.
Mm-hmm.
and he just was beaten a lot of the times, I felt.
Well, and
No,
we go
sometimes
back
with
to the Melbourne game.
It's very good ruckman, but
yes. Go back to the Melbourne game because that's the pinnacle of two ruckman. That's if we were going to play a game with two ruckman, that's how we would do it. They were both taking marks, contested marks.
And Draper took 5 marks in this game, so that's his job.
Get 2. So Draper kicked 3 goals, Phillips kicked 2. Now, neither of them kicked goals on Saturday, but Draper had, or did you say 6 marks, 5 marks?
5.
All of them in the first half, I believe.
Yep.
But he looked like a threat.
Mm.
And he was getting his own ball.
Yeah. I can get probably had a few clearances, to be honest.
Quite quickly. 1 clearance, which is a bit, that's centre clearance. Sorry, that's 1 centre clearance. But way more involvement in the play. And like you say, this isn't just 1 week of Flipper, who I love as a backup ruckman.
Yep, but I think that's my point, is it's become the stage where I want him to be a backup ruckman now. Yes. Because in the VFL, our boy, Nick Bryant, had 25 disposals, 11 marks. Now, this is VFL, of course, different, but 11 marks, 2 tackles too, 37 hit-outs. Like,
when you're playing VFL,
and
you're
still playing against grown men.
Well, that's what I'm going to come against. So you're 21.
Yep.
You're playing against either kids that are your own age.
Yep.
Who aren't getting in their respective AFL side, or you're playing against more senior bodies who aren't quite good enough to make it in the AFL. Either way, you're playing against a comparable level.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't see how he stays out, but I've said that for 3 weeks now. So,
well, so as you said, Nick Bryant's 21. He's I think, how many games? 2, 3?
Not many. 1 apparently. He's played more than that, I'm sure.
Well, so that is 1. No, played games. So 5 in 22, 1 in 21. So 6 games.
There you go.
That's not a lot of footy, and I would. We're going to West Coast this year. I don't want to get to the next level of thing, but, we're going over to West Coast. They don't have, I don't think Nick Nat will be playing. So they'll have 2 kids rucking, or young players. And I would thought it's a great opportunity to take him and, almost give him the number 1 ruck mantle for the game. Let Draper play as that forward a bit more and just give him a good run, see what happens.
Mm.
And then with you got North Melbourne after that, and then Carlton after that. I would give him the run into the bye and see what he can do in the 3 games.
Look, no matter what happens, we're certainly not losing anything.
No,
Brian, wrong guy. Flipper's not having an effect.
But you've got to reward VFL form, don't you?
Well, you do to a point. You can't gift games just because they're playing well in the VFL. There's got to be a need, but we're
talking about 3 or 4 really good, and he's coming off a season last year where I think he was our best and fairest.
And critically, though, there's a need at AFL level. It's not like Voss, where you'd kind of have to create a position for him.
I agree.
Which sucks for him, but that's just the way it is.
Yep. He's got competition. Whereas Flipper's the competition, and you have to say Brian's knocking down the door on him.
Good, yeah. We'll cover off more of that later on.
Yep.
Anything else we won't call them negatives, we'll call them things to work on?
Things to worry about or work on.
Do you have anything else? Because I don't.
Just the moments and fumbliness and a few things like that. But we're a very young team. Like I guess I want to be really excited about this win, but I also will take the other point I want to take out of this is that Richmond, to be honest, where were they on the ladder? Like, they haven't been very good. Let's be honest.
Then they beat Geelong last week, and the whole AFL world kind of went,
well, they started writing articles that they're back.
They're back, yeah. So we've firmly squashed that.
But they've only had 3 wins for the year. Yeah. So let's just, when we talked about last week that we and this is what I'm trying to say is about, great win, really pumped, but so we've got West Coast, North Melbourne, Carlton. Let's make this 4 wins in a row. Let's go into the bye at 5-5 and
9-5. We're 5-5 now. 8-5.
So 8-5. Let's beat crappy teams that we're playing the next 2 weeks, and let's beat Carlton, who aren't great.
I think the big thing to take away, yes, Richmond haven't been very good, so sure, but we haven't beaten them for 9 years.
No,
that's a big factor.
Massive. That's a wood.
Huge. The wood for the club as a whole, just to get that off their back, and Yeah, Richmond have been very good in that time. Obviously, we've been quite poor. So to get that monkey off the back is great. To win in front of 78,000 people, it just bodes well that they can handle those situations. We were 5 goals up against Collingwood in front of 95,000 people. Like, they can handle that sort of situation.
Yep.
I know we lost Anzac Day, but I said it then, that was about Collingwood, I think, more than us.
Yeah. They're the best team in the competition, surely, at the moment.
Mile. They should have. I don't know. Yesterday's game ended up such a dull affair, but they were incredible in the first half.
They just made them look ordinary.
And I did enjoy it, I got to say. I'm not obviously massive.
Oh, it's a challenge, that game. I don't know who to barrack for.
When, digressing here, Bobby Hill running down the wing that sent Sard, glorious. Just brilliant. I don't even care.
I do love it that, Sard's now in a team that's 2 positions below us in the ladder. That's a little bit of...
The shitty thing about Collingwood is that they play good football.
Yep.
And they've really seemed to sort out the off-field stuff. Like, do you see the video?
Like the to-go, you mean?
Or just all of it. It's all positive. The video of
their
mum doing the pump up bar. It was brilliant anyway.
Well, I guess that's a good coach. And then therefore put a good culture in.
And I don't want to gush over Collingwood, but they're getting a lot right at the moment.
The thing there could be, but maybe Buckley, although he was a very good coach, wasn't great at culture.
Possibly. And now they got both. So look out. And we should have beaten them. I will stand by that. We probably should have beaten them.
We should have, but we didn't. That's the thing.
Move on. Right. Well, let's get to the moment. Let's get to that fourth quarter. Obviously, Stringer kicks a critical goal where McIntosh runs away from him.
Maybe Stringer farted and
I'm out of here. Maybe he just stunk. Who knows? Durham kicks a lovely set shot earlier in the quarter. Oh, you just disappeared. What happened there?
Oh, well, look
his fake background's on Zoom.
We really must get a green screen.
Durham kicked a lovely set shot goal earlier in the quarter that was obviously critical. And then you get to that scenario where Redmond should have rushed the ball. Absolutely. They kick a goal. About 7 minutes left at that point.
Yep.
And I mentally at that point went, well. I accepted.
Yep, same.
That was probably it.
My brother-in-law, as I said earlier, turned it off.
Turned the TV off.
Turned it off, people. He turned it off.
Anzac Day 2009 should tell every single Essendon fan to never tune out early.
Yep.
All right, if we lose by 10 goals.
And I was at the stage I said to him, but it's only 2 goals, like 10 minutes.
It was frustrating because it was such a frustrating goal to concede. Yep. I get the rage of turn it off.
Yep.
But yeah, surely you turn it back on at some point.
I would have. And then a minute later, we're right back in.
So let's go 2 things, actually. Waller kicks a point. Richmond take it down the other end. And Cochin, lovely kick, hits Ryan Mansell.
Mm-hmm.
Who
35 out.
Kicks it out on the full. Now, I'm not going to pump myself up too much. I would have scored. I might have crept it in for a point.
That's a big call, Sam.
Rushed through, probably. I wouldn't have made the trip.
Big call, Sam.
Kicks it out on the full.
I'm going to get Sam on an oval soon.
That's fine. You do that. Don't, actually. Take it all back. No, I'll come back to that. So he kicks it out on the full. And at that point, we all went, like, A, you wanker, you missed it. But also, maybe it's just meant to be. And that's a dangerous way to think. So from there, I'm not quite sure how it happened, but it got to a throw-in on the far side in front of the interchange, side from where I sit. On the interchange bench, throw-in where all these moments happen sequentially. So the first moment is Dustin Martin picks up the ball 5 meters clear of Zach Merritt, streaming inside 50. Merritt catches up, tackles him, affects the kick.
Gets enough on it,
Huge moment in the context of what happens next. Gets to the 50-meter line. Rewalt and Zach Thatcher again kind of scrapping a little bit. For reasons unknown to most people, Rewalt sockers it straight to Ridley. Questionable decision, that one. But anyway, it happened.
Yep.
Ridley goes out to Redmond, who you made a good point before the pod that had worked extremely hard to get from the stoppage side.
Well, he'd come on it. That's when that stoppage happened. Baldwin had sprinted his guts off to the bench, and Redmond had ran out to make a 2-on-1 against one of their young defenders, one of the Richmond defenders. So he was forward had 2 Essendon defenders on him.
Yep. So Ridley wins the ball. I think it was Ridley won the ball from that soccer kick.
Yep.
Goes out to
Redmond.
Redmond. And then somehow Ridley was there again. I can't remember the exact. It's a bit of a
No,
blur.
no, Redmond sprints down the
So Redmond sprints down the wing.
ring.
I've gone blank on the details.
He's too excited. Do you want me to explain what happens next?
Yeah, you take over and I'll.
So
I'll
Redmond
jump back
sprints down the wing. He kicks it long to a contest. Stringer, and there's a bit of a fumble there.
It comes to it.
And then it
to
comes
the
back out to Heppel. And then Heppel takes the mark against the Richmond guy. Then he hits Redmond up again. Redmond turns around.
Yes.
And
so Redmond then
goes
tries
to Stringer again.
It went to a contest with Draper, and three of them. It falls to the back.
And
Stringer's
the
sitting
Richmond,
there.
and at that point too, if I interrupt, the Richmond defender on Stringer went up to the contest.
Yes.
And didn't affect it.
And it went over
Stringer
the back,
was left
which
at
is
the
a
back.
very
The ball
Essendon
came to him
thing to do.
Yep.
And at that
Went
point,
on
I
to his
thought
left.
Stringer's going to have a ping.
Same.
Curls it round to the top of the goal square where Durham takes very good contested mark. That
And what did Durham say in
the
the interview?
kind of shat himself because the ball was coming towards him. It took the mark and immediately thought of his debut game where he missed a goal at the top of the goal square, which I'd forgotten about, thankfully.
Yeah, but when he said it, I remember. I went, that was a shocking miss too. I remember.
We were partying like we'd won the game at that point.
Yep.
You don't miss from the top of the goal square, do you? Kicks the goal.
Imagine if. Let's just stop there for a moment. Imagine if he'd missed.
No, I don't want to. It makes me feel sick. Kicks the goal. Ball goes back to the middle. We're made to wait an eternity because there was a pitch invader down the Richmond
what was that about?
end. Yeah, someone jumped on the ground at the Richmond end, which I found out a couple of weeks ago is a criminal record.
Really?
Yeah.
That doesn't seem worth it.
I've been a member for 14 years and I've had the same security guard sitting in front of us that whole time, every time we're at the G. And I had a chat to him. And that's what he told me. 11 grand, criminal record.
That's not worth it. That's not worth it. I'm sorry.
Not, anyway, just in case you were thinking about it. Made to wait an eternity. We're all standing up because we know there's 7 seconds left. News travels fast.
Yep.
Draper comes in, smacks it into open space.
Beautiful.
Perfect play. Durham again gets there first, scraps the ball, siren goes, we fucking lose our shit.
And I thought that the really important part there too was that centre bounce. I was watching it with my mother, which was pretty painful, but we won't go to that. And I was saying really important centre clearance. So they can, if they get this clearance down straight to a clean one to a midfielder, he kicks it, they can take a mark. Yeah, the game can still be decided. Absolutely. Our ruckman needs to compete here. He needs to get either a clearance or bring it straight down and get a contact, get them all jumping on the ball. And what he gets up and just goes, splaps at about 20 metres out.
Yeah. And that was the tap down to no one would have been good because, as you say, you all jump on it, that kills time. But the 2 or 3 seconds for that ball to travel where it went, and then you compete for 2 more seconds.
And there was no one over there. So it was a rush to all get over there. And then
that was the game.
Yep.
And
exactly.
It was high IQ football. And quite often I talk about how much we're a low IQ football team sometimes.
It was high IQ and high ability, like to
and
clearly win the tap out against Dan Curvis.
Now, in that passage of play, so we went in the 50 once to, I think Martin kicked it to Waller.
Yep. Just fell short.
Would have been so fitting if it was Waller, but anyway, we'll digress. A quick hat kick comes out. It's Dyson Heppel on a Richmond defender who I'm not quite sure who it was.
One of their younger
Takes
players.
A beautiful contested mark.
Yep.
Right, that's the step one in that is that it was a really good contested mark at a crucial time. 2, he kicks it to Redmond. Didn't blaze away.
Nope.
Didn't just bomb to a pack, which
he made it so that
wouldn't have made.
Redmond could put it a lot closer.
Yep. Redmond stopped. Again, situational awareness. There was enough time for him to stop. Yep. It wasn't super time critical at that point. I think the kick he put in wasn't brilliant.
No.
But fortune,
Fortune favors
Stringer kicks it to duds. So just so many moments in that build-up. And there was a few comments on Twitter about it being the best atmosphere at an Essendon game for a long time. I don't remember a celebration like that in the crowd since Anzac Day 2013, when Job kicked that goal from the pocket and we stormed away the last goal. That was a beautiful day. This was party. I wanted to hug every person around me. We were high-fiving people we didn't know.
It sounds not a touchy-feely guy.
No, I'm really not.
He's not.
It was
not like
just...
Dawn.
No one knows who Dawn is, but yes, not like Dawn. Just the kind of game of football that, one, that's why I go to footy. That's why I love it and why I go. But 2, just a real good vibe. Fuck you, Ross Lyon. It's a good vibe. Don't care
Well,
what you think.
it's been a while, as I said, since we've had a few go the wrong way for us. Like I think back to Sydney, and I think back to the
That's what it gave me vibes of.
Collingwood game. Yeah.
Mark.
Yeah.
Honestly.
So I finally to get one where Durham took it, and when he took it with 30-odd seconds to go, so please use the freaking clock up, please.
Yeah, and he probably
could
have taken another 2 seconds or 3 seconds, which again is so minuscule.
I would have been watching the clock and going, well, I'll just go.
Pull your socks up, tie your shoelaces. You can't stand there and watch the clock, but you can, gamesmanship.
Yeah. But and then he kicked it and it was 7. I went,
that's enough time.
3.
Yeah, that's enough time. And when they said it in the crowd, I was going, oh, that's enough.
Yeah, felt the same. I was like,
and we are so burnt as supporters that we automatically go
emotionally scarred, Sam.
Worst case scenario.
Yep.
But didn't happen. We finished it off and had one of our most memorable wins in a long time. So,
because we are the champions.
We are. Champions is a bit much. Sounds like we won the flag.
Oh, just let me have this.
Okay, you can have it. Votes, please.
Oh, do you want to go first or me?
No, I went first last week. Mine's different to yours, so you can go
it's
first.
Pretty hard with 3. Merit.
Merit was the clear and obvious, yes.
Just a great game for the skipper. Really became, and it's the tackles, it's the kicking, it's leading by example, which I love him. 2 for Ridley, as best game he's played. Only 90 games he's played. I sometimes have to step back and think about that because I expect a lot from Ridley, but he's 90. He's got to be at 100. Imagine him at 150, 200 games. Anyway, I'll go 1 McGrath because he was great last week. He was very, very good again this week. I would have loved to have gone Wiedemann or Baldwin. I thought Caldwell was great. Hobbs was great. There were a lot of really, really good guys that could have taken that one, but I wanted to support it.
I didn't give Hobbs a vote, so I'll talk about him a little bit now. He was hard. He's a hard footballer. He's tough. That left foot's going to be an issue.
Yep, I agree. And a couple of weaknesses, but
he's a kid. He's a kid. It's all
I think that again, like Parrish is not playing for a couple of weeks. I would
after the bye, the DAS, I think.
Yeah.
My votes.
Yep.
Merit 3, as you say, typified by that chase down on Dusty. That was literally game-saving pressure. Ridley 2 just controlled that aerial battle in our defensive 50. And I gave 1 to Durham. And I know that sounds a bit like just sucking up the bloke to kick the winning goal, but he was in everything in the last quarter.
Exactly.
He was winning the footy impacts. He kicked the goal earlier that was a critical shot at goal, got in the right spot, and was actually quite consistent across all 4 quarters. So
I'll tell you what, I realised after the game that they'd moved him forward because I just thought, gee, I'm seeing him down forward a lot.
It's normally Martin that's the more attacking.
Yeah, and I thought actually a bit of a light bulb moment. He would make a very good forward because beautiful overhead, like it's one of his real strengths.
Yeah, and the mark was not an accident. He's got a solid set of hands. Yeah,
genuinely, he outmarks a lot of people. Yep. He's got a really good leap and mark, one grabber kind of guy. And there was another little contest in that last quarter where he came in, picked it up, scooped, span around sort of a few, like Richmond.
That was on the top of the 50,
Yeah, top of the 50.
Won the ball, danced out the way.
Went to boot it, and then I think it hit someone in the head, actually. I think he might have booted it into someone's head, or like it was heavily smothered. I think
the way he won the footy was
the way he won the footy.
That's the sort of shit I'm talking about. He was not just that one moment.
Is he a forward? Is he like, could he be like a really damaging, like a Pepper Pow sort of half forward that can... Pepper Pow?
Such a great history with names. Yes, Pow Pepper.
Yeah, you know the guy. Pepper Pig.
Him and McIntyre up for Richmond there.
Yep. Yeah. You know what I'm talking about. So I just think, I thought, like, because you know how I said a week or so before, see, what I think about Durham is that he's a very good player, but he's got that sub sort of thing about him that he could really influence a game. And that's what I'm talking about. That last quarter, how he came on, took marks, really influenced the game in that patch. That's kind of what I can see him can do. Whereas on the wing, he's a little bit...
Well, it'd be interesting because he's playing wing now because there's a need for a winger. Like that's where we're deficient. Mardo's a brilliant winger. His ball use...
I still think Sardis is the other winger.
We'll control what we can control now.
Yep.
Mardo has 9 phenomenal kicks and then 1 shit one.
Yeah. There was one shit one too.
Yeah, which is fair enough. If you can hit 90% of your kicks, that's fine. He's so calm with the ball. He's got that Pendlebury-esque awareness of what's around him, and he's able to stop and turn and just
makes
take
good
his time.
decisions.
Good decision maker. That kick to Waller, I know it fell a millimetre short, but with no disrespect to Waller, if it was a bit more agile, faster player, it might have been the perfect kick. I know Waller's another conversation, probably not for now, but just that's the attacking side of the wing. It's hard to suggest Durham's future now because he's just kicked a winning goal and was very good. Maybe he's not a winger. Maybe he can be a half forward.
Well, is there a world where him and Langford share a wing and a half forward role?
Depends what happens with Sardis. It's too hard to call.
Yeah. To me, Sardis, like, what is exciting, I think, about Sardis, just to go off topic a little bit, is, okay, so we watched Wardlaw play on the weekend. He looked very, very good. Sheasel's been very, very good. Mackenzie at Hawthorn's been very good. Philippou at St Kilda. Was Humphreys up at Gold Coast? All these kids, like, they're looking like a really talented batch of players. And from all reports, now Sardis hasn't played, but he was as good as those top 3 or 4 as Sheasel and those guys when the draft was hitting.
It was Sheasel, Wardlaw, and Sardis.
Yeah,
they were the 3 that could have gone any direction.
Yep, 1, 2. Those ones were the ones they were talking about as 1, 2s, and 3s. Like, so I'm very excited about what he could bring. Anyway.
Yeah. Look, conversation for the future. Right now, Durham is clearly the best winger in the AFL, and you can. And
I'm not knocking Durham in this. I'm just thinking of
the future, which is fine.
Yep.
But Stars has just won us the game of footy, so
we'll drop him.
We can just say he's the best winger going around, and be done with it. Right, I've got some socials. Bit of a different
socials.
A different approach to this.
I had to do socials on Saturday night with my family.
You did. I had to do socials with 78,000 people at the MCG.
That's different. You don't know.
Because I'm a real supporter. I go to games of football.
I'm a real supporter.
There's been a few comments live. I want to touch on Mr. Phil. So Phil is here every week in the chat. Which, when you're early on in your days doing a podcast, that sort of stuff, these people you remember. And we know Phil.
No, Phil.
He made the trip up
after Phil.
Yes, we should. That should be our best and fairest. Made the trip up from Tassie. Telling me that he had only ever been to one game at the MCG before.
Never lost.
So 100%. He continues that streak. And I think we need to go fund me to get through every single game of football.
Maybe just a final. We'll save it for if we make the finals. Can we save Phil? Like, can we pay for Phil's trip?
Yeah. Sounds good.
How's that, Phil? Does that work for you?
Don't snip that or cut what do they call it?
Don't
keep that. Don't use it against
No, come on, Phil. So if you're free in September,
I don't think we're going to have to worry this year, but yes, keeps his 100% streak. Has been very active in the chat tonight. I've said a couple of things that were because he's sort of mentioned it in the chat. So we appreciate the input from everyone.
You knew what we're talking about. It's just Phil again.
Oh, it's just introduction to topics that I forget because I don't remember every single detail about a game of football.
Fair enough.
We appreciate you, Phil, and all of our listeners.
Mostly
Phil, yeah. No, all of them equally.
And Sam's mum.
No favourites here. Sure. Weird interlude. I put a post on the page today on the Facebook, the Don Pod, asking for your takes. Got a really good response, which we don't often get from Facebook these days. Bit of a dead medium. So I'll read through a couple of them if that's all right with you, Nathan.
Go.
Yep, keeping you up.
No, I'm just the Hardwick thing.
Oh, yeah, we'll get to that. So quite a theme of just hard work. Naomi says, watching the boys fight it out and not quit, even when it seemed like Richmond had run. They had showed real grit and super proud of them all. Dean followed up with, we never gave up. We were 3 goals down in the 4th quarter and found a way to win, which is all very accurate. And I think that's what we've missed a lot over the last few years. When you get that 2 or 3 goals down, you go, oh, well, we gave it our best shot. Bill commented that we had a bit of luck finally. And I was a bit perplexed at that initially because I thought of all the times the ball didn't bounce our way and all that. So I asked him for a bit of clarification. He said a few bounces, and as I touched on, we did kick that second last goal because of a very fortunate bounce. Yep. So, yeah, fair enough. Biggest bit of luck, I reckon, was the Rewalt toe poking it to Ridley and then bang, the rest is history, as well as the out on the full.
Yeah, 100%.
Don't know if that's luck per se. You make your own luck in football, but Yes, I get the point.
But the Rewalt was very interesting. Like, I'm sure he'd
It's a very, very
really
poor
like to have that
decision.
moment again.
Yeah, yeah. From a guy who's played 300 and
Yeah,
whatever
3
odd games.
premierships and all that sort of stuff. Like, to just
Sang with the Killers. Nick makes a good point, and I really like this. We've got enough midfield depth to deal with the loss of Parrish. And I'm not sure if he's meaning there that if he leaves the club entirely. I took it as just that we can cover him if he's injured, which is really good.
I still
That's
don't
a
want
real feather.
Parrish to leave.
No, neither. But you think of who we were missing. Like Setterfield's been great as that different size mid. No Parrish. That's some big outs. No Shield as well. That's some big losses from that midfield, and we covered it quite comfortably.
Yeah, I agree. But again, I don't want to be the glass half empty on this one.
What are you doing?
We were playing Richmond, who Taranto, by far their best midfielder.
Oh yeah.
They didn't have Hopper, and then after that, I don't. They're not good in the mids. Like, let's be honest.
Shy Bolton, Dusty didn't really play.
Shy Bolton's a very good football player,
was in the
but he's
midfield
not a big body mid who's crushing through and stealing the clearances.
Even still, if you were to look at it on paper and go Richmond without Hopper, Essendon without Parrish, Setterfield, and Shield,
I agree.
just
But
take
I'm just saying, hold your horses, people.
No.
Okay,
Why are you
go.
all of a sudden being the reasonable one? This is such a change of roles.
Well, because I don't know. I don't know what's happened.
What are you doing? You're normally
I'm sorry. I apologise.
one.
But I'm just saying that Richmond have won 3 games this year. You know, like they've beaten Geelong, yes, but they've also beaten, I think, West Coast or they drew with Carlton, and at the moment we don't think much of them. So I'm just trying to pound the farm.
Don't stop it. Regan, and I'm interested in your thoughts on this because it was one of my concerns. Passion in the box. Been missing for years.
Loved
what
it.
I'm really liking is its positive passion.
Yeah.
There's none of the arms out,
smashing
stupid
things.
Face when an umpiring decision goes against us. It's all. It was a celebration that we'd won, and I love the fact he got the players together on the ground, and he talked about this in the press conference. Said, "Make sure you get to those bloody supporters."
Yeah.
Because we've been through hell with Richmond. Just aware. The awareness that was a thing in the 10 minutes after a game of football we won by a point was
I've had a lot of Essendon mates tell me that they were very frustrated with Truck. He showed no emotion.
Yes, the only time I remember Truck doing that was when Draper kicked goal of the year.
Yep, and part of me was like, oh, but it's good not to have a freaking idiot in the box. You know, you see some coaches just screaming and singing and dancing about everything. But I did agree with him. I was like, nice if he showed some life. You know,
a
like
little bit.
Like when we were getting flogged, you know, he should be like, I don't know, something. I want to see that he's angry as well, because it felt like he was like, oh no, this is all part of the plan.
They showed Scott a couple of times after something bad had happened, and he'd be kind of grumpy looking and talking to his coaches. And even that is a change, because it wasn't just Truck. Worsfold was just as bad.
Yeah. Worsfold just looked like he was eating sandwich, doing a bit of that, sort of eating his lollies, drinking his water, going, oh, there's a game on.
He was just padding the retirement fund, I think.
Yep.
Me and you both were so concerned about Scott, but right now, one of the better decisions we've made as a football club for
again,
long time.
I think he's going great, but I'm not
right now.
When we win a premiership, that's when he will be.
Right now,
it's a great decision. Because again, to look at another club, Carlton. Early in there, like by about mid last year, they were like, wow, Boss is a great coach. Look at us flying.
Now they want him sacked.
Well, they nearly do this week, don't they? They're nearly like, nah, everything's wrong. How can we have 2 common medalists and a Brownlow medalist and be this crap? And a bit like me, I do agree. But it's more your list, actually, I think you'll find.
Cripps is a shadow of what he was last year.
But their list is ordinary. Their bottom 6 or so players are not good players.
Yeah, correct. I agree with you. Let's not talk about Carlton.
Sorry, Carlton.
A bit of opposition analysis here from Chris, who is a friend of ours. We used to work with. Full disclosure.
Friends.
He's
uncomfortable word.
Chris is a good bloke.
An acquaintance.
Sure. My friend Nathan's acquaintance. I've got photos of them on a road trip that sounds really sus. Looking very happy.
We had pants on, everyone.
That would suggest they were very good friends. He had a bit of a whinge about Channel 7's coverage, which fair enough. Zach Merritt taking his game to a whole nother level, and Jake Stringer's one of the laziest players ever. We probably need to talk about that. As a Richmond supporter, he agrees with Phil, don't we all? About how
Phil could run the show.
Stuck to their game plan, very disciplined, and yes, I would watch my back if I were you. There's a bit of commentary in that post on Stringer that he wasn't very effective and he didn't have a lot to do with the game and all that jazz.
Yep.
I want to say he had 6 tackles, which
Which is
he was
great.
rolling through the midfield a bit, so probably a bit bumped from that. But what you
Great
get with
numbers,
Stringer is that goal from 55 on the run. He's
Well,
a moment's player.
Don't forget who's kicked it to Sam Durham,
And
too.
he had the composure not to have the shot, which for Stringer, I think is a big deal because he would have had that shot 2 or 3 years ago, even last year without the change in mentality.
Yep.
But he doesn't have to kick 5 goals. Yes, he didn't have a massive impact, but when he mattered, or when it mattered, he did. And he's a big body in that forward line, which is actually just as critical.
Yep, I agree. And I wonder too, like he didn't have a great preseason because he got injured in the later half of it. Like how much of it is he might be carrying a little niggle and he's starting to just struggle a little bit because so he had really?
Come on, leave us all waiting.
He led the team for CVAs.
Yeah, wow.
88%, followed by Zach Merritt at 83 and Sam Draper at 79, obviously, and Jai Caldwell 79.
That's really surprising.
Yeah, I wouldn't have said that.
No, neither.
That does now question his numbers because they're not very good numbers that he's rolled out with. Like
a little bit, but still, you're doing the team thing.
And this was what I wanted to bring up. So we're going to West Coast this week. Do we manage him and bring in Voss?
Question in a second. I've got one more comment.
Okay,
sorry. I want to just get through for the socials.
Yep, no, I apologize.
That's okay. Try and keep some control over the structure. Corey, we have the right coach, a gun captain, and a talented young list. If Baldwin, Bryan, and Reid develop strongly, then sky's the limit. Important to remember, Baldwin's like 20.
Yeah.
So
he might have played 10 games.
Yep. But
I'll check that.
You probably overs, I reckon.
How much do you want to put on it? No, we don't bet here.
We don't bet. The feeling is that we're moving in the right direction, and Corey's kind of summarised it quite well then. Good coach, good captain, good list. Young list. We expect some ups and downs, but generally a good list.
6.
6. I said you were overs.
I said, what?
You said 10, and I said you're probably over.
Oh.
Okay. So what are you fist pumping for, clown?
I know, because I thought I was right, but obviously I
No,
wasn't.
you are not right.
I mustn't have heard
I
what he
want
said
everyone
correctly.
here to know that.
Damn it.
Nathan was wrong.
I thought you were saying he's over 10 games. I went, no.
You are over. You are over in your estimation.
So we were both right.
We're
listening, not listening to each other. Oh, it's such a normal thing.
Hey, you were not listening to me.
Yeah, well, okay. Oh, so you do that to me.
Yes.
Yeah, so 6 games of football he's played.
Yeah, and
6.
He's still a young man. He looks like he's 28. I'll admit.
He'd be
20.
Is 20. 193 is 97 kilos.
He's bigger than Lav. I found out today because I was having an argument with a mate about Lav, which is a good segue.
Like by centimeters or
same height, but he's got about 6 or 7 kilos on Lav.
Oh, that's interesting. Very interesting.
Now, I don't know how recent that information was, but that was what Google told me.
Well, I'll have a look on the Essendon on the AFL website. You think that'd be?
Do now. We need to talk about next week, and we'll wrap up this a bit quicker because we've gone over time.
Sorry, everyone, if it was your bedtime.
West Coast next week.
You're right.
Interesting scenario unfolding over there in Perth with West Coast, whether Simpson keeps his job.
They can't have 2 coaches sacked this week.
They've just lost arguably to the second worst team in the comp by 109 points, something phenomenal.
Imagine if we had a coach sacked after playing a game and then played a team the next week where they just sacked their coach.
That's the sort of shit we need to get Sir Swamp Thing on Twitter.
Oh, yeah, that'd be
on too. That wouldn't have happened before, surely. We have an ongoing thing between me and you that the teams that play a team that's just had a coach sacked, if you have your coach sacked, the next week you win.
It's a very good chance you'll win.
And it happens a lot.
Like even the North Melbourne, they were very, very close and their coach just had to step away for a while.
Yeah. So that worries me. It worries me that West Coast are $10 to win and we're $1.04.
We were talking about putting a couple bucks on West Coast.
I'm not comfortable with that scenario.
Right,
And I think collectively there's a lot of Essendon people, supporters, who were like, shit.
Yeah.
This is the kind of game.
We've got a lot of scars.
Yeah, we do. In terms of changes for you, nothing forced, I don't believe. There was no injuries, no suspensions to talk about. So what would you think? Phillips for Brian
is 100%. Then the question mark is obviously Kelly and Laverde and Shield. If they're fit, who do they push out?
Mm-hmm. And Guelphy's also available. And
Guelphy's played a VFL game and was pretty decent.
So for me, personal opinion.
Yep, love it.
Lav doesn't come back in straight away.
Nope.
I think we've got that balance right in that back six for now. And getting that experience for Baldwin is kind of important. And Kelly's kind of in the same boat. I don't think he comes back in because, again, there's no one to push out.
Well, that has to be someone like Hind or Massimo down.
So what I was going to say, leave Mass in the side.
Yep.
So he's the sub, so he doesn't have to go out. Leave him in the side. Hind out. Shield in. And have Mass as that running defender.
So who goes?
And then you pull a sub from somewhere else. I'm not
Snelling or something like that.
Possibly, although I like Snelling in the side, which is why I haven't taken him out for Shield.
Yep.
It's an interesting game because I think it does give us an opportunity to maybe manage some players that are 100%. Carrying some slight niggles. I don't think we can go too much thinner in the midfield.
I don't want to be arrogant, but we should go over and win that game.
We've just lost to Hawthorn by 110 points.
If we've just beaten, Richmond, we should be able to just say, okay, boys, just do the same thing for 3.5 quarters. We should be able to knock them over by 50 points.
This is a huge test of our mental capabilities as a team, but also how much has really changed. If the game plan stands up and we just go out there and play that football, we will win quite comfortably, I imagine.
Agree.
What we've been guilty of in the past, and this is going back more than just the last couple of seasons, is getting to an opponent like that and playing their style of football.
Yep.
And we might win those games. I don't remember losing too many of them, but it's a scrappy, ugly game of football.
Yep, I agree.
It's a big test for the game plan.
I would think, and if Guelphy's fit, I don't mind him coming in as a sub option.
Absolutely not.
Yep. I would think that it's a great opportunity the next 2 weeks. So we've got West Coast, North Melbourne. Don't rate them either. That we just manage a couple of guys like Laverde, like Shield. If Shield was not fit this week, then I would say, well, let's just not take him over to Perth. Doesn't need to go to Perth.
See Scott's presser?
No.
Shield could have played. Shield was borderline. So he's probably fit. He probably is available. Put it that
Fair
way.
enough. Mm-hmm. Well, then... I don't know. Because the other one I said earlier was Stringer. So I wondered if Stringer was carrying an injury because he's looked a little like he runs funny because of his broken leg. I know he had to change his running style because he broke his leg the way he broke his leg. But is it a good game, to bring in someone like even a Shield or a Voss and say, look, you're going to get a game, just crack in hard. And the thing about bringing someone like him and Brian is that they're going to crack in hard. They're going to give everything. Because they're like, well, this is my shot. I want to play a good game.
Prove a point, yeah.
Yeah, so which will be, will hopefully make sure the other boys, they're cracking in. We better crack in as well.
And Voss coming off 17 touches, 3 goals, 7 marks.
And I know I don't think he only kicked, I think he kicked 2 points or something the week before. But I just want to reward a little bit of those guys. Look, my concern with someone like Nick Bryan is that if Essendon aren't careful, other clubs will start hunting around him. Because he's 20 years old, he's dominating VFL, and he's not getting a game over a 31-year-old ruckman. And you think of someone like North Melbourne.
Who got Goldie coming to the end.
Goldie shouldn't be playing. They didn't want him playing at the start of the year, but Xeri broke down. Yeah, that's what I'm calling him. And he broke down, and he would have been their number one ruckman. Goldstein wouldn't be playing, realistically. He would have come in and covered him when he was probably a bit tired. So I think that North Melbourne would be looking for a big ruckman like that too.
I think there's a fine line because I'm sure, and I don't have the knowledge of other clubs, VFL teams in depth to really know, but there would be other clubs in the AFL who have 21, 22-year-olds banging the door down.
Yeah, of course. Well,
that these players have to stick it through because as a ruckman, I'm sure Nick Bryan's aware, generally you won't crack into the side regularly until you're 24.
But we know that clubs will go after, like, Different
correct.
sort of
And
midfielders.
that's where
like Sam Durham was at Richmond, and we went and poached him out of there. And he now is pretty happy.
he was only VFL listed. He wasn't AFL listed at Richmond.
But Richmond, I'm sure would have been. He was someone they were definitely looking at because it'd be foolish not to. But Ruckman are a different, like tall, mobile.
I know what you're saying, but I don't think that's a sole
They came for
reason.
Sam Durham. Sam Draper when he was playing VFL.
Yeah, and he signed a 4-year deal because he wanted to stay at the Dons. That's where you've got to rely a little bit on.
But he would have been like, I'm next in line. I'm going to be the number one ruckman if I can get there.
I'm sure Brian
might be thinking, well, I'm second in line, even if.
At the same time, he's probably looking at Phillips going, he's 32. He's
I'm
one
saying
hamstring
that, so
away
when-
from 3 months out. Like,
But when Peter Wright plays and Wiedemann plays and they're all fit and Sam Draper
Yes.
plays,
there's some.
does Nick
interesting
Bryan
things.
get a game?
Yeah, who knows? But that's
Probably not.
That doesn't be like, playing 3 games now isn't really going to solve anything.
But you're right. But he might show so much that they go, well, we have to find a spot for him. Like,
It's really going to mess with some shit. And obviously, Pete waltzes back into that side.
of course he does.
So that it's going to be an interesting time. And I don't know, maybe they're playing Phillips just to get through to that point. And I'm sure they're having conversations with Brian in the background saying, look, this is why you're not playing. This is what our plans for the future are.
You can't pick a guy week after having one disposal in a game of football. You can't.
agree.
You can't say, yeah, you get another go. Because to me, that says to the VFL guys, well, fucking hell, like I've had 20 touches, 11 marks. Obviously, I can't get in front of this guy no matter what.
I agree with what you're saying. I just don't think that the risk of losing him is the sole reason to play him.
Then
There
culture.
are several other reasons to play him right now.
Yep. Yeah, I agree with that. But
Fear of losing him isn't one of them.
I agree. But then if they don't do it, then I'd love to know what's going on.
Yes, well, we'll never know.
No, we'll never know. But you can't tell me he deserves another game.
Now, possibly the toughest tip of the year, which is a bizarre thing to say when we are playing West Coast, who are in the worst spot they've ever been in. Can I have a tip, please?
I would definitely go to that.
Put them on the line.
The Boomers.
The Boomers. That's you.
Look, I'll say a conservative 45 points. But they're still over there at their home ground. They're home. It's very different to playing at Tassie. Seriously. They would have been cold in Tassie, the ball
Yeah, they
bastards.
would have been very cold. I think.
Don't say anything
What do they say? What do they
Don't say
say?
anything stupid.
It's a harding to nothing. If we win, no
no
one cares.
one cares. Yep.
If we
We
win by
lose, we're the
5 goals,
fools.
there's probably a few raised eyebrows.
Oh, still, there'll be a bigger story during the week. They were
I'll
still
say
talking
Dons
about Hardwick.
by 72. 12 goals.
That's a little bit of a but yeah, good on you.
Hawthorn beat them by 109. We beat
In Tassie.
Hawthorn by 40 odd.
Hawthorn haven't been actually pretty good, actually, I would have thought the last few weeks. But
for
yeah,
half a game.
Yeah.
It's a hope that our game plan has evolved, that we can just win those games that we should win and should win them well.
well,
North,
to do
I
that,
think
so
North
someone's
will
going to
not.
have to, like, Wiedemann's going to have to kick a 5 or 6er.
That's fine. Sammy can pop up with a few. We've got goals in us. We scored 104 against Geelong. Scoring is not.
Yeah, who was it?
overly-
Was it Lewis for Hawthorn on the weekend? He kicked 6 or 7.
Mitch Lewis, I think. Yeah.
So
I'm
if you
more
think
worried
Wiedemann,
about North.
Sorry?
I'm more worried about North.
Oh,
North,
yeah.
For me,
North
is
are
the losable.
North are a
highest
better
showing.
side than West Coast at the moment, and
Yeah.
that's partly because they've got closer to a full list. And
West Coast in a world of pain.
yeah, the West Coast is struggling to put 23 on the park.
And to that
they
end,
had another
I
injury on the
actually-
weekend too.
We were talking about managing players. I've just in an instant said in my head, no. We need to go over there and win that game by as much as humanly possible
Nope.
because we've got
I think you have to have-
102%. And
I think you have to have faith in your players, and you have to rest a few. And
there's
and I think you have-
there's an element of system, not people.
yes, but
But
that's
I
what
still
this
think-
is. This is having
Yeah, I know.
trusting the system by
I agree.
dropping
But
the players that need to rest. Because second half of the year, we've got another tough bunch of games coming up. Like
we do.
we play
do.
Collingwood again. We play Sydney. We play.
Yep.
Anyway,
I still think we need to be going in with a mentality to win by as much as we can. Otherwise, that's where you start to get in trouble with
I think
taking
we
it
were
easy.
Going with.
Yeah,
I would
I
think
know.
we were going with that,
I'm just scared.
and that's
and
understandable
We are
because
the
you've been
only
burnt.
supporters in the universe that would be scared right now of playing West Coast.
Yep.
That is no disrespect to West Coast. They are just shocking. The final topic we need to talk about, and I don't know if you have been finding out any more info.
Oh, it's just
Is that-
it's on the socials.
It appears as though Damien Hardwick has resigned. He's taken a step back. Seems like he's made that decision, not he hasn't been forced into it.
There's saying that there's a big press conference tomorrow.
Press conference tomorrow. It was SEN that initially posted it. Damien Hardwick has decided to quit Richmond in a bombshell coaching call. I guess watch this space. I don't want to. Fox Footy, it's reportedly set to quit Richmond. So I don't want to go too much on it because it hasn't actually happened yet.
No, we'll just say
interesting case for several reasons. One, he goes down as one of the greatest coaches of modern football, 3 premierships, nearly got sacked from Richmond, stayed there, won 3 flags, should have been 4, honestly. 2018 will go down as one they really should have won.
Yep.
What interests me more would be who takes over. Because there is a certain ex-Essendon coach at the Tigers.
Let's not call him that. I don't like that.
Well, it's the fact.
Yeah, I know.
He is an ex-Essendon
Technicality.
coach, Ben Rutten. So expect Richmond to start not being able to defend. If that's the case.
Well, an emotionless coach sitting there going,
I can say something else then. And I believe Teague is also an option. You look like you've had a stroke. You can breathe. You can just be still and breathe. Thank you.
Ben Rutten.
Teague is apparently, I think, an assistant there. So that'll be interesting.
Again, another
does
sack
step
coach,
aside.
isn't he? He was at Carlton, wasn't he?
Yeah.
So they got 2 sack coaches there. No wonder they're losing.
It was during the pod that you touched on that we could potentially be playing a team that we got the coach sacked, more or less, and then coming up against a team that has had the coach.
Could we have
potentially?
I don't think West Coast will do anything because they're still holding on to its injuries,
which is fair.
Well, it's fair to a point, but don't forget in 2000
management.
and what year was it when they got Kelly? 19 or 20? 19 must be.
After they won a flag, yeah.
Yeah, so they went hard for Kelly, gave away draft picks, thinking that they can get another premiership, with that group that was there after coming off the 18, and that hasn't been successful. So now it's 223. They've got a very old, like I read out some of their players to you earlier. Just give me a sec. I'll find that again.
Hearn,
so they've
35.
got Shannon Hearn, 35, Nick Nannui, 32, Luke Shuey, 32, Jeremy McGovern, 31, Cripps, 30, Darling, 30, Gaff, 30, and Elliot Yeo, 29. So that's some old, serious, ordinary players.
And injury prone.
Injury prone.
Poor Shuey can't string bloody 3 games together.
No. I did ask you if Jeremy McGovern was someone we'd look at for a year, just as a...
If the option was there and he's not going to cost us much...
He wouldn't cost us anything. What would he?
Well, if he's in contract, he'll cost us a trade.
Oh, okay. Well, then it would be a 40 or a 50, you'd think.
Well, that's what I would think. I'd be open to it.
Yeah.
Again, not a conversation for...
No, sorry.
No. That'll just about do us. We're going for...
We've gone forever.
An hour and a quarter. That's
wait until we win a premiership.
Yeah. Oh, my voice is struggling tonight. If we win a flag, we'll have
or
to do
just
it like
an Anzac Day
week after because we won't be sane. Have I forgotten anything? I think that's...
I probably have, but that's fine.
Socials, VFL next week. We're all good.
Make comments.
You say Dons by 45. I say Dons by 72.
70.
Phil says Dons by 80.
Phil!
Something. Hang on a minute.
Phil.
I lost it.
I'll back it down.
81. Phil. So
Phil.
Ball's on the line there. If you get it wrong, you're out. That's it.
Closest to wins.
Yeah, I reckon he'll be closest, I hope.
I reckon I will be.
All right. To that end, we'll wrap it up there. Thank you for listening. Good crowd here tonight. Good lots of comments on the live. Anywhere else you're listening, we appreciate you. Go Dons.
Go Bombers.